So with that said, I want to go to the My Build for this evening, and that is Greg Cassidy. So Mr. Cassidy, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jim. I should have the screen up and you should be able to see it now.
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome to My Build. Today is our August challenge, which was harvest. It was including farm equipment, grain elevators, hopper cars, mills, tractors, everything that you can read there. And it was being held today. And as you know, Chris Course isn't with us right now. He's out in the woods fixing up a cabin they have up north that I'm not sure what they do up there, but it's important enough for him to be there. And so I will be your host tonight, and I'm happy to do this. And just by the coincidence of alphabetical order, I happen to be the first. And these are the slides that I had sent in to Chris before I knew I was going to be hosting. So for my harvest scene, I've had these cows on my layout for about 20 years. I built a little farm scene that you'll see. But before the layout tour was taking place, I decided that they just looked a little too out of the box, a little too shiny, a little too all the same. So I took them off the layout. I went over them with some dull coat to get rid of the shine. Then I started weathering them. My wife is an Aggie. She knows all about cows. So she helped me with pointers about how cows should look. And I managed to get them all so they looked a little different and they were acceptable to her. So I went ahead and put them on my layout. And again, the farm scene doesn't include much, but it's just the field where they'd be grazing. The farmer and his tractor are there, he's feeding them. And the field is accessed by actually crossing the tracks and going up a path in the back. And this is how I had my layout ready for the layout tour. But after the tour was done, I looked at them again and I wasn't really happy. And it's important to know that you can always change something on your layout. Sometimes it takes me a long time before I decide something is worthy to be replaced. But in this case, I just wasn't happy with those cows. So my farmer moved into the dairy cow business. And he now has a bunch of dairy cows to take care of instead of the beef cows. And I found a package of these up at Mainline Hobbies when I was up there picking up some things and thought that it would be appropriate for them to replace the beef cows that I had on my layout. So that was the last of my slides. Next up, we're going to have Leonard Davis. And I don't recall seeing him. Leonard, are you there? All right, I don't think he is, but he sent us some information about his slides. And what this is are some right-of-way structures that he built about 5 years ago. He has two structures that we're going to see here. They both are speeder sheds, but one doubles as a tool shed. This first one is the speeder shed, and you can see he's done the interior of it. And this is an O-scale and it's scratch built, and the roof is removable. And this is a photo of the inside of it, and then the photo of the back of it. And now this is the second shed, which is also a speeder shed, but I think it doubles as a tool shed. And this one, you can see he's got a different workbench in there. Again, the roof is removable, and I really like the cobwebs he has on there. It kind of looks like my garage. And this is the back of his second shed. And then the outside of it. And I think both of these O-scale structures for being scratch built look fantastic, and the detail that he has inside is tremendous. He says that everything was scratch built except for some of the details inside. So that's Leonard Speeder and Tool Shed. Now, next up, we have Cliff. And Cliff, I know you're here. Are you up?
Wow, you couldn't have done better on that. I just walked in the door.
Well, that is good timing. All right. Let's go through your slides. If you can tell us
All
about.
right. So, the little guy on the left is a chicken coop that I went to do. Kind of had some fun doing that. Then I did a Quonset hut. Was actually really easy to do. Tried a new way to do windows with Scotch tape. Gave me kind of a cool look. And then all the corrugated is you get that at Joann's. It's corrugated paper, and this was a finer corrugate. So yeah, this one worked really good. Just a couple more angles. The hay bales, I used florist foam. Really gave me a pretty decent silage type bale. I grow up here. I'm here in the Midwest, so that's kind of what I grew up with. Was lots of silage, lots of hay baling. Not a fun job in the summertime. And this is a pole shed that I made. Popsicle sticks, well, coffee stir sticks. The main frame of it was cut out on my laser cutter, and reinforced with cardboard, because the wood that I used was nice and thick, but it was a very soft wood that I had got. My sister didn't want it, and she gave it to me, and I don't know, it worked. Gave me a good look. I've made a lot of these buildings in the past, and when I first did them, I actually used my crimper and soda cans to get that. Then I tried aluminum foil. So just a lot of experimentation. Everything is 1/64. So
Yeah, when I saw this, it looked like it was laser cut wood, and I was wondering where you had found that. I didn't know you could cut it yourself.
yep. I got a laser about year and a half ago.
Mhm.
Absolutely love it. I was using a Cricut before, but it didn't really cut wood very well, but the laser just slices through it. My sister just bought her second laser. She spent a fortune, and now it's my turn to upgrade to what she's got, because it'll do acrylics. It'll do a lot of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And this one is there was a barn. I cut that. I just was kind of starting to work on it. That's cut out of, it's called Choco Board. It's a water paint or watercolor board. It's like a 4-ply, and the laser cuts through it like butter, and it's nice and stiff. If it's a real big expanse, I do have to reinforce it a little bit to stop it from bowing. But for the most part, it's quick, it's clean cut. Just love to work with this stuff. I've used paints on it. It doesn't warp with the paint. So yeah, it's something that I would recommend rather than the basswood sometimes.
Uh-huh. And I like all of your equipment. Is there one manufacturer that primarily makes these, or are these from a variety of manufacturers?
These are from a variety. Here, I live in Wisconsin. About 2 hours from me is a city called Dyersville, Iowa. It's the Hall of Fame for farm equipment, and Toy Tractor Hall of Fame. My dad used to go down there and get for part of his collection. When you go down there, it's this massive place, and tractors are the big focus. And I just go down there every once in a while, and that's where my little all of this equipment came from. Gives me ideas, and yeah, it's just it's a lot of fun. I like the 1/64 scale. It's fun to work with. I got to see a little bit of the 1/64 segment earlier in the evening, but I was at my sister's house, and I didn't really get to see a whole lot and hear a whole lot about it. But
So
and
this
then
is
this
the
is
barn
just
you're working on.
yep. And I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with it. If I'm going to batten board it, if I'm going to just do the stir sticks and give it that nice wood look. I almost did a round barn,
Uh-huh.
because I go by a couple of them around here. Thought that would be a fun project too. But
Now, what, did you, just come up with this design and then you transferred it into what you could use on the cutter?
yeah, that's the thing I love about it. It's called, the program I use is called Inkscape,
Mhm.
and I just go in and you pick up your squares, your circles, and you make what you want. It's just a great, easy program to use. I don't know all the fun ins and outs like my sister has gotten into. She's taught me a couple of things, but yeah, it makes for you can really do some great fun stuff.
Wow, I can't wait to see this one done.
Yeah, yep. And
And this is your last slide, so.
okay, yep. So there's just another shot of the pole shed, and then there's one of the houses that I've been working on. And that came from, I don't think that came from the Sears book. I found this other website that's got, oh, probably 200 floor plan books from way back in the 1890s all the way through today. And I just go in and find a book that I like and save it as my favorite. And, I got 40 houses to pick from. And this one, I was kind of looking for that New England style house.
Yeah,
And cut that
yeah,
out.
that overhang gives it that kind of, New England, salt box look or something.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And if you look at the garage door where you
Mhm.
see that, that had that wrought iron
Yeah,
holder, that's actually done on my laser.
wow.
It will do that fine of a detail. So I love it. If you can zoom in on those, the big one downstairs is all diamond cut.
Uh-huh.
Laser just did an amazing job on getting me that detail that I wanted.
Oh, wow, yeah, I wish I could. All right, anyone have any pictures or any questions for Cliff?
Greg, can you go back to the photo of the barn?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that is really a unique view. I've never seen one like that before. I really like that. That's great.
Thank you.
Where did you find that?
This is just out of my own head. I just go in and look at pictures. This I was kind of going after that Kentucky horse barn kind of a look.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a freeform barn that I came up with.
The on the left side, what do you plan to put over there?
Oh, that's actually going to get it's going to have a roof over it, and then it's going to have like a framing around it with a little bit of a fencing. Kind of there'll be some hay bales stacked up in there or something like that. Kind of a little storage there.
Kind of an outside area for the animals, a fenced outside area for the animals.
Nope, actually that'll be where the people go in. So it'll kind of be like tack area.
Okay.
Just more of an outdoor exposed tack area.
Gotcha. Well, I hope that you'll show us when you get it finished more, because I think that's a great looking model. I really do. I've never seen one.
Yeah, definitely come back with it when it's done, Cliff, and show it to us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Cliff, what material did you say that stuff is again?
It's called charcoal board.
Charcoal.
But
Charcoal.
I've looked for it and I can't find it anywhere. But I went to Michael's, and over in their watercolor painting area, they have this 4-ply board that's like that. I found very little of this available online, and every place I've talked to said you have to go to an art supply store. But unfortunately, Hobby Lobby and Michael's and all those guys kind of put those individual places out of business. So this I just had left over from some posters that we did when I used to sell RVs. I had like 2 sheets of it and thought, let's give it a shot. And I absolutely love how it works.
Curious. You ever use laser board?
I have not. Nope, I haven't
I'm
seen that.
I'm a fan of laser board.
Okay. Where'd you find that at?
I buy
What-
it from a place called Encompass Media, which is in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Oh, I know Reading. I used to live
Yeah.
out there.
I kind of still do, but I still get it through the mail.
Okay.
So yeah, Encompass Media, they've got all kinds of laserable materials.
Oh, very cool. I'll take a look.
So yeah, check them out.
Yeah, because I'm trying to find some acrylics for windows.
Yeah, he sells acrylics. Trying to remember what thicknesses. I don't know.
Okay.
I got some. I forget what sort of a thicker styrene from. Oh, what was the name of the place? Jerry's Artorama.
Hmm.
It's online.
Okay.
So, and of course, Evergreen sells you 005 and I think they've got 005, 01, and 015.
Okay.
So,
All right. I'll have to look.
I think N-Scale Architects sells something similar to that. It's a paper product that I've been using to simulate stucco.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I was watching another video and I'm doing a prairie style house for my doctor, and I found the super fine spray with sand in it, like they used to do back in the 80s, that texture paint. Now they make it a really fine. I've done a couple of pieces with that, and I really liked how the look was. Usually I use sandpaper for my stucco, but I thought, let's try this. And with this new material, I'm anticipating no warping on it with the spray. So
Mhm.
be interesting.
Another place that you might try online for the charcoal paper you're talking about is Dick Blick's Art Supplies. They're a big art supply that is mostly online, but they carry a lot of things.
Okay.
yeah, we have a Dick Blick out by us. I was going to check them out.
Mhm.
Hmm.
What are you
Yeah,
gonna do?
heard of
What
that.
Are you gonna cut your windows and doors, or what are you gonna use for windows and doors?
Yeah, I'll cut them all out from just by design. Yeah.
Okay.
I've used Tichy stuff in the past, which I like Tichy's product, but this just gives me such freedom to do anything that I could come up with. So
Right.
it gives me that fun flexibility.
Cliff, excuse me,
cool.
what scale was that in again?
I do everything in 1/64th, so the S scale.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep, because I'm a die-cast collector, and I've probably got about 5,000 die-cast cars in S scale.
Wow.
So,
Are you are you a farm modeler by any chance?
me,
Yeah.
I will model anything that jumps into my little head.
Because I know a lot of farm modelers that would love to have a model of your barn.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, if you look at the picture on the left, if you look in the background, that's the cityscape that I'm working on right now. Building a hotel and some other stores. Now I've decided I've got to put something between the city and the farm. So now I'm going to do like a gas station and a couple little houses on another 2x2 diorama.
Pretty neat.
I consider myself to be a 1/64th train modeler, but I recently took stock of the automobiles I bought to put on my layout and realized that I too am a 1/64th vehicle collector.
Yep. Yeah. All of this started out with, I started with an HO railroad layout, and I discovered that my cars didn't look right. I'm too picky in my detail, and my cars looked wrong with the train. So the train disappeared, and I just kept building and building and building the buildings and doing all that.
Well, S-scale trains are right there. You got to just get some of those.
I got to find some space. I don't have enough room in my townhouse.
Oh, no.
You know, the one thing S-Gage really has going for us is we have lots of die-cast available to us.
Yeah.
We may not have a lot of models and a lot of that stuff, but boy, do we have vehicles.
At attractive prices, I might add.
Yeah, yep. I go to a train shop up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, or about an hour and a half north of me, and he's got a lot of S-scale stuff, and he's it's readily available to get from him once I get some room. But I'm looking at early 50s into mid 60s era is kind of where I like to fall into for what I make and what I want to do for my next train.
It's beautiful modeling. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you'll have stuff ready once you do get that room and can put
Yep.
something together in it.
Oh, absolutely. I got tons of stuff in boxes that just waiting to get put out.
All right, thank you, Cliff.
You're welcome.
All right, and next up we have Jeffrey Jordan, and I know you're here, Jeff. And you have 5 slides.
I'm here. Yep. This is my continuing Colorado project. And my visit to Colorado inspired me to dig out the kit for the livestock pens, which is awfully close to scratch building in a box. It's a box full of sticks and plans. And I had been putting it together. And coming back from Colorado, and I had seen the ruins of several livestock pens along the line. And so I felt I really needed to push to get the livestock pen. So I got the pen together in time for the harvest presentation, but the scenery is actually coming along. It's more advanced than it was when this photograph was taken, but I am still working on the scenery. But this has got a couple of our harvest themes. It's got my stock cars over there with the brakeman on the roof. It's got the pens from the kit and a couple of enhancements I added. There are something like 7 gates in there, and the kit said, well, you could try and make the gates work. And I took that as a challenge and dug into my supply of detail associate eyelets, jeweler's wire, and pliers. And so every one of those gates is hinged, and as you can see in the photo, a couple of them are open to show that they all work, and I can rearrange them if I want to change the style.
Wow.
The sheep was a challenge because in O scale they want to sell you like 3 sheep for $10, which I didn't want to do. And I ran into a fella whose son 3D prints orcs for Dungeons and Dragons. And I said, boy, I wonder if he could print some sheep for me. He said, oh, sure, we can download a file. And then the next time I saw him, he had 34 sheep for me. So there's a decent little herd in there.
Well, Jeff, I have a question. Did you have the sheep before you built the pen?
I did.
How did you keep them from all wandering all around and getting away?
They're very well behaved. But, and then this is actually the Banta Model Works livestock pen kit. But as I said, even Bill Banta realizes that it's kind of scratch building in a box, because you open the box and it's just sticks and plans. And it is the only kit I've ever purchased that not only comes with many pages of instructions, it also comes with a DVD. Filled with photographs trying to explain how to put the whole thing together. As you can see in the center there, the loading ramp is a dual level loading ramp. The one on the extreme outside is the man walk. Then the ramp in the center there goes up to the upper level, and you can see it makes a right and a left and would go to the stock car. And just barely visible to the right of that is the lower ramp with the gate closed. It would go. So because the sheep loading stock cars are actually double deck, and you could load sheep on the upper deck and the lower deck of the car. And so this, and I actually saw those stock cars when I was in Colorado, and this is how you loaded an upper deck and a lower deck. And on the end of the upper deck there, kind of concealed behind the fence, is a little bridge that goes over the lower section, and it's convertible. So if you want to put cattle through the lower ramp, that bridge flips up. And since I was already insane enough to hinge the gates, I also made that ramp function. And then the other thing that bugged me, having livestock of my own, was that there was no water troughs. And you can't have livestock without water troughs. So you see in the pictures, I got a
I was
couple
just
of.
looking at that and wondering if that came with the kit.
Nope,
Okay.
that's from the scrap left over. I made the
Uh-huh.
watering trough. And you'll see in one of the other pictures, there's no animals in that pen, but in the other pen, there are animals. And so there's water in the watering trough in the other
Uh-huh.
one, which I discovered I used DAP Alex caulk, which dries transparent,
Mhm.
and it makes great water, at least for a little section like the watering trough. I'm
Okay.
very happy with how that came out. And so
Now I have a question. With your narrow gauge, with the cars sitting lower, did you have to adjust the kit any for that? Or because it's sort of scratch built, the adjustment was already built into it?
the kit is gauged more for narrow gauge than
Uh-huh.
for standard gauge. And though I did measure very carefully to make sure that when I was done, that everything was going to, fall at a believable height, and that you can see that ramp there is about halfway up the car.
Yeah.
And the instructions do discuss that, and they warn you to check your roadbed height. And you can't see very well here, but in my modeling, I originally laid roadbed. I use the foam roadbed product because I like how quiet it is.
Mhm.
And then I realized the Rio Grande Southern rarely had contoured roadbed. The track usually looked like it was lying on the ground. And so I had to bring the scenery up to the height of the roadbed. And that's what's happened here. Is that's my first layer of material in making the scenery is actually thin styrofoam insulation, and
Mhm.
it's raised it up so that the edge of the roadbed and the edge of the scenery is actually at about the same level. And with that, it all falls about right. And I did not want to just glue the whole thing down on the surface. And so
Right.
it's on a stiff card, which one will enable me to move it around a bit, but I still have to
Uh-huh.
figure out how I'm going to texture it with some kind of spray glue and some sort of turf product to give it a more turf appearance than it's got
Uh-huh.
right now. But at least all the sticks are glued together. And then you can see the ramp there. You can see the deck
Yeah.
and the bottom for the lower level. And you can see those gates that swing out. And then they
Uh-huh.
have the extensions that come out to meet the side of the car.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
They function too.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a lot of sanding and filing, but they slide in and out. And so it's an exceptionally authentic model, but you can see how many boards had to be individually glued in place. The
Yeah.
one thing he did do for you is the battens was on the ramps there.
Mhm.
Those are not individual. It comes laser cut with a sheet of battens,
Wow.
and you glue them down, and then you cut it out of the form, and it leaves behind the battens. Otherwise, it's a lot of sticks. My chopper got a lot of workout cutting up all the sticks. And also, every stick was stained in advance. And I use Hunter line stains, and based upon what I saw in Colorado, I picked this color. Obviously, they're not painted and they're weathered to a degree. And if you look at the pictures carefully, you'll see some of them are damaged because you got livestock. You never have 100% of
Yeah.
your boards intact. So there are some damaged boards around and about in the scene as well.
Yeah, well, I really liked the shading that you got on that wood. It looks perfectly sun-stained.
It worked really nicely. I'm a huge fan of Hunter line stains. I use a lot of it, and I really like the effect. And of course, the wood that came in the kit took it really nicely, and to my eye, it came out just right.
Well, that's nice.
Hey, Jeff,
Yeah.
Jeff, let me, go ahead.
Pat here. Do you think that train man on top of that car would have clearance for the tunnel if he He's glued on there?
He does indeed. I can run him all the way around the layout without removing him.
Thanks, Jeff.
You will see him in a couple of weeks. That was one of the figures that I painted, and I worked from a photograph of the Rio Grande Southern with a brakeman standing on the top of a car, and I said, "Oh, I like that. I want to have that on my layout." And so he's actually held in place with a pin, so I can remove him if I want and put him back on. But and of course, the funniest part is, you may remember that snow shed's been around for a while.
Yeah.
And I finished, and I putting him on the car. I said, I never measured to make sure that he would clear. And actually, it worked out just right. He clears comfortably, and so I can leave him on
That's
to
good,
run
Jeff.
through the snow shed.
Yeah, but I bet he has to hold on to his hat while he goes through.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch. You've even got him holding the brake,
Wheel. Yeah.
brake
Yeah.
log,
Yeah, he's got a club in one
yeah, the
hand.
brake club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for the
it's a
guy hiding
very
under the
nice
car.
It's a very nice figure. That's an Aspen Model Works figure, and I'm
Nice.
very enthusiastic about Aspen Model Works figures.
Jeff, what
good.
kind of cement or glue did you use on this?
I use Eileen's tacky glue on wood. I really like Eileen's tacky glue. It gets, as the name implies, tacky very quickly. And so you can keep moving on your work surprisingly quickly. You can clamp it for just a minute or so, and that glue has set up enough that you can move on to the next step. And it dries clear. But that's also, I stain first, so that if there's any glue sticking out any place, the wood is already stained, because, if you glue first and then stain,
Yeah.
it'll
It'll-
show any glue.
Yeah, you'll never
excess
hide
glue.
the glue again.
Yeah, so stain first and
Mhm.
glue second.
So is
And
that
just
one of
in-
your working gates there?
Yep, both of those gates, the
Wow.
large gate in the front and the small gate leading up to the ramp, both function.
Jeff,
Every gate you see in the model functions. The instructions said you can make the gates work, and we tried a single sheet of fine fiberglass sheet. I said, well, that's not going to look very good. And fortunately, I had a stash of the Detail Associate eye bolts,
Mhm.
or the eye rings, which are usually used to put on handrails, and they work great.
Jeff, I gotta ask you a question. Why are all the animals in a circle?
I was trying to figure out which way should they be looking, and I figured the train just pulled in, and that got their attention, so they all turned and looked in that direction. I
thought they
don't
were
have
all
any-
waiting their turn to get a drink of water, and
It could
they're just
be.
very polite.
Yeah, I have experience with horses. I have experiences with cattle. I do not have any experiences with sheep.
They're all rail fans.
Animals in pens are never polite.
A friend just showed me a video on YouTube last night. In England, there's a company that makes a sheep detail kit. And what they want you to do is they sell flock, and then you use the static grass applicator, and you put glue on your sheep, and then you spray them with this flock, and it makes your sheep fuzzy.
You know what I
I
could
did-
see, and I just went to our county fair last week where they were shoring one of the sheep.
Mhm.
You could flock half of your sheep, one half of your sheep, and have a guy there with the razor doing the other half.
Yeah, actually, what I was thinking was I wanted to paint one of them black, so I would have a black sheep, for the ON30 model.
Yeah, go with your narrow gauge. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
All right.
only
Do we
other
have any
thing-
other questions for Jeff?
I guess we passed it on the express here, but in the back corner of one of the photos, you'll see my next project it's probably in the first one there, all the way at the start. There,
Ah.
in the upper right-hand corner, you see
Uh-huh.
there's a cardboard building there. That
Yes.
is a mock-up of the section house at Lizard Head Pass. And I am now stick building that actual building, but that was a mock-up to make sure I had the size right and that it would fit.
Uh-huh.
And that'll be replaced with a stick-built model. It's about 50 to 75% complete right now.
Uh-huh. Well, you sure got your practice in stick building this.
Yep, 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 yeah. Yeah, like I said, I've always said for a long time that I'm known for buying kits, secondhand kits that other people opened the box, saw that it was a box of sticks, shook their head, closed the box and put it away. Well, for over a year, I did that too on this one. And Colorado shoved me over the edge and said, you got to put this together. And it took a while, but I'm very happy with how it came out. Banta makes some really nice kits, and it gave me a really nice base to start from with just a couple of modifications of the gates. I altered the headers, the boards that run across the top. Again, with experience on bracing boards and stalls, and of course added the water troughs.
Well, I think it's gorgeous.
Very nice.
Thank
I mean,
you. I'm really happy with how it came out. And this little set, my layout is basically intended to be a series of vignettes. And this is Lizard Head Pass. And so it's got the cattle pens or the livestock pens at Lizard Head. It's got the snow shed, and soon it'll have the section house.
It's one of the most detailed models of that kind of a
Yeah.
set of pins
Yeah.
I've been seeing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really gorgeous.
Thank you. It's a terrific kit, and with enough patience and the instructions and the materials will get you there. I really like Bill Banta's kits. I have a number of them on my layout, I considered scratch building one, but there are a lot of detail that you would need to know about this. Notice that the different size boards, the board spacing, all of that is built into the kit by the size of the materials and the plans and so forth. If I had done it myself, it probably would have been just evenly spaced stuff. And this is much more intricate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Jeff, what was that water product that you used?
What I used is what I had on hand. I used DAP, Alex, caulk, and I learned to use that from videos on putting down the foam roadbed. You smear a layer of this caulk and then press your roadbed into it and then weight it, and it dries flexible so that it holds it firmly in place. But if you want to make a change, you can actually peel it up with a painter's a chisel. And then I also glue the track to the roadbed with that stuff. So it keeps everything, the operation, very quiet. There's no sound transmitted from the rails to the sub roadbed. And so that's what I had on hand. And I said, well, gee, it dries clear and it's very pliable. So I'm going to put a squirt of it in the trough, and I could level it out a little bit with a stick and let it dry, and I could add a little more. And I'm really happy about how the water in the trough comes. I don't know that I would use it for a stream or anything, but it worked really well for the watering trough.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like the kind of stuff that can work well for small things like fountains, wells, water troughs, things like that.
Yeah, because it dries clear. And if you work it carefully, there are no air bubbles in it. And if you don't like it, because you can pull it back out, actually.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Now, next up, we have Joel, and I know you're here, Joel. You ready to go?
I am.
All right. We've got 8 slides for you, and I'll let you narrate us through this.
Okay, so what I have chosen is to work on is Aswell cabins, and these are a little bit different from your normal thinking of harvest. But Aswell is a little community. Actually, it's not even a community. It's just a little place, an orchard up on Columbia River, north of Wenatchee in the apple country.
And this is up in Washington State?
Washington State.
Uh-huh.
And so that's the orchard is primarily the only thing there. You pass through it, you pass through the orchards, and that's it. So as well, next slide, please. And as well, they built well, too many slides. Back up one, please. There you go, the track plan. So it's a little bit hard to see, but sort of in the horizontal up there, you can see a lot of little rectangles. And those are the cabins that they put in for the migrant workers. Primarily migrant workers. I think there are a few people that live there year round. But the cabins are anywhere from, there's 10 by 12 foot cabins, 12 by 14 cabins, 12 by 24, and 12 by 30. And I think maybe the 12 by 30s may be for some of the permanent residents that work there year round, doing other things, attending to the orchard, getting ready for the packing season and shipping season. The harvest actually occurs in primarily September, October, maybe a little bit into November. But next picture, please. You can see here as well from a long distance away. And you can see the little white buildings right there, sort of in the center. That's the cabins. A little bit later picture of the cabins when they had tan roofs. In the background, you can see the yellow structure sort of on the left there is Wells Dam, and that's the Columbia River. You can see sort of in the center on the right side. And the orchards are all in the front there. So
Wow.
next slide. And this is a little bit of a close-up that you can see a little bit of the cabins sitting out there. And you can't hardly see there's a couple of warehouses behind where the apples would come into. So I'm going to touch on a few people's hearts here, and I'm going to touch, the first one's going to be Sherry. So the next slide, please. So I drew the cabin based upon what some other pictures that I'd seen a little bit further away. I drew it in CAD. I drew the roof, I drew the sides. So I was able to get 6 of these cabins on a single 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And I've since moved them over a little bit, and I actually got 12 on my new sheet.
And you're working in N scale, correct?
And N scale.
Uh-huh.
So a 10 by 12 cabin, the 12-foot distance is less than an inch, to give you a perspective on the size.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the next sheet, please. Next slide. So this is a little bit closer in view. I just took a snapshot, or what do you call it? A crop of the other sheet. And the center one there, if you look up above, you see some black and white squares going across. I just put a scale in there so that when I printed it out, I could measure it and say, oh yeah, my scale came out correct. And if I redo this, I could probably get one of these on, I could probably get 1 or 2 of these on a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper in HO scale. So that was the reason for that. And then on the left there, right above the middle window is I put 10 by 12 on there, so I know that's a 10 by 12 cabinet and not a 10 by, or not a 12 by 14 or one of the other sizes. And then I made a little, the red, darker red stuff, I made a little brick foundation to make little piers. But I didn't.
I saw that. I was wondering if that was a chimney, but they're brick piers, huh?
Yeah, I just didn't do enough piers on the paper. I've since added more piers on my paper.
Okay.
So I didn't do that initially. And then on the right-hand side, the dark green squares are the roof that I just fold up and put in there. So this is in support of Father Ron. This is all paper.
Uh-huh.
And I did so I just do a 2D print, no 3D, 2D, TWO 2. So that's what I get on there with that, and print those out and then cut them out. Now initially, if you look real close in the window there, you see the mullions in the window,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to cut out the white space in the window there, and as I was cutting it out, that in scale, that little piece running down the center, which I made about an inch wide, is so fine that I could not cut it out without cutting out the whole mullion.
Mm-hmm.
So I have since gone back and modified, and I've decided I'm going to put a shade in that window, so I don't have to cut it out.
That's a good idea.
The door is a set of squares, or rectangles rather, to make like a 5-panel door.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that's drawn on there. There's a light gray lines running for the clapboard siding on there. And these are fairly simple little cabins. And because they were just put up for the migrant workers primarily coming in.
Now, Joel, when would they be harvesting the stuff up there? It wasn't particularly hot. I'm assuming just by the fact they only had one window in that cabin.
No, that they start harvesting in September.
Uh-huh.
September through about maybe November if it stays warm enough and not too cold. Once it freezes, I think that ruins the fruit. But and they also have sometimes some of the orchards up there have pears and apricots, and I think they come in a little bit earlier than the apples. But when the apples hit, then and as well being out, they're like 20 miles from anywhere, and so it'd be tough to transport these workers back and forth.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure when they built these cabins, but I think they built them over a period of time, probably from the 30s. I think the orchard there in Aswell was built or was originally planted in the early 20s, but it takes a couple of years to get the trees up big enough to get any fruit to mount to anything.
Okay.
So let's see the next slide. So this is the first one. This is the first one I used matchsticks. These are like the 2-inch match that you get a box of matches.
Mm-hmm.
After they've been struck and flamed out and lit a candle with it. I cut the ends off and I could use it for bracing. So the next slide. This one, I decided, well, I didn't really need the bracing on it, and the only bracing in it is on the back corner where the pieces are folded together to come together.
Uh-huh.
So
how did you glue it together?
I used Aleene's tacky glue. Thank you, Jeff.
We ought
So
to get Eileen on here as a sponsor. As many people use our
Well, I don't think you'll see a modeler's workbench and not see a bottle of it somewhere.
So I counted out there's a total of 108 cabins up there. So, but I don't think I'm going to be able to build all of those, even in scale, and put them down on a module. I'm planning on putting it on a corner module where it's, instead of being straight, it's curved, because I would like to do an apple orchard on there and have some of the cabins in there.
Okay, so you're gonna have, you're gonna model part of the orchard too, I guess, and
yes,
that'll be nice. And now I saw in the track plan they also had a warehouse and a couple other buildings. Will you have room?
Yes. Well, yes, I hope to have the warehouse because that's where the reefers need to go in to pick up the apples.
Uh-huh.
Well, not only the reefers, but also they would have box cars come in. And before they started using cardboard boxes, they would ship the apples in wooden crates,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
I don't know what the bushel crates or something about that size. And so they would have all this wood to come in. The wood was pre-cut, and basically all they did was sort of tack it together to make the apple crates. And so they would have workers in there that may start in June or July. A few workers would come in and start assembling all these shipping crates. And then you would have a box car come in that had the sort of cardboard egg crate material for the apples to sit in.
Mm-hmm.
For the different layers in there, and then they sometimes would have the papers that would go on the apples to separate them also. So they would have a boxcar load of those to come in and unload at the warehouse pre-shipment time.
Well, I sure hope you'll come back and show us as you progress through the orchard and the rest of this, because it's going to be a gorgeous scene when you get it finished.
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Pat here. I'd like to make a recommendation to you if you want. For your
Sure.
window, cut out your window, put in a piece of acetate, and then mark your mullions with a fine point pen.
Getting a fine point, getting a fine enough fine point pen like that is pretty tough. That the mullions, the vertical mullion that that separates it, and in scale that is being about I made it 1 inch, and that's about 5 thousandths of an inch wide.
I know they make some pretty fine point pens. I know I have a few.
And I gotta not be shaky when I do that.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Joel, this is Father Ron. You might also want to try the sticky label and the acetate, and print your building on a sticky label, stick it on the acetate, and just go ahead and cut across and pick off the white pieces and you'd have your acetate window. The British have been doing that for several years now, and they find it even in N scale very, very easy to do.
Yeah, I just cutting that. When I tried cutting that one, I'm going like, no, this is not going to work. Not to do 20 or 30 of these things. The bigger ones, I noticed one of the cabins that I could see a little bit different view on had about 3 windows on the side instead of just one.
That was one of the big cabins?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Well, that's even more windows to cut out.
Oh yes.
The name of the YouTube channel that I look at for that sticky paper method is called Chandwell, and he models in N scale.
Chadwell?
Chandwell, Chandwell.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be worth taking a look. You might find a new technique that works for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to go for something that's the quickest to do when I need to make a lot of those cabins. So, in scale, you wind up doing a lot of these things of maybe of the same thing. It's like when I do the orchard, I may have 100 or 200 trees on a little 3-foot square corner.
Yeah. Now, have you found trees that you can use?
I'm just going to make them myself because I want to put the apples in them.
Oh, okay. Those are gonna be tiny apples.
Oh, yes, they are.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Joel?
Don't forget to come back, Joe, because I want to see the orchard and everything when you get that done.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Joel. And
Jim,
now
I
we
just-
move on to our last one, Father Ron Walters. Father, you've got 2 slides for us tonight.
Yes, this first one is a British model. The corn picker there is US Ertl HO scale corn picker. Ertl is the company that manufactures. It's a John Deere. My mom's side of the family were all involved in farming, so I'm familiar with seeing the equipment. I never used it or drove it. The barn there is from a British company called Scale Model Scenery. And during the pandemic, he did a whole bunch of builds and continued to sell his equipment. This looked most like a kind of pole barn or storage barn for you might find on many farms in the United States today. It comes complete with stuff for the interior. And I looked to see if this Ertl corn picker would fit in. It does about half. As soon as it gets to the cab, the cab is too high. A lot of our farm equipment today, the driver of the equipment is actually sitting at the second story level for much of the equipment. When I was a kid, of course, you were right there amongst the corn as you were walking through it, and even on a tractor, you were just barely above the tassels of the corn. But this was a paper product, the barn there, and it's cardboard actually wrapped in paper.
Okay, I was wondering because it looked paper, but I could see the thickness of the doors that there was more substance there.
Right. I had to reduce it. It's produced in 00 scale. And so I had to figure out, well, how much do I shrink it on the computer to get it to HO scale? And it's actually 87. HO scale is 87, so 00 scale is twice HO. So if you're going to reduce it, you reduce it by 87%. So this is HO scale, it's not 00. But it was fun to put together. I like the cardboard paper kind of projects. I have to obviously color the edges of the white paper yet and a few other things on it, but I got it done at least for us to take a look at.
Yeah, well, and working with the paper, you can get the shading and the weathering and everything that's already inherent in the picture. Very nice.
Next slide. This is the one of Bill
Love
Bax's. It's called the Foley Barn. And this one was a challenge. Not only is this a box of sticks, but there's actually a framework that on which you put the sticks. The tabs and slots that he designed for it, they fit kind of tight. And I tried to do a dry fit before I could do any kind of gluing to make sure I could get the tabs in the slots. And one wall that I tried to put in the slot crumbled in my hand. I had not one piece, but about 10. And so I wrote Bill, and he sent me he didn't have time to send me just the wall. He sent me an entire second kit. So I have a second kit without one wall. So I was smart enough to scan it before I put it in this model. So I can create the second wall, I think, using a jig of some sort to make a second barn. Bill was very generous, and he didn't have to do that. All I needed was that one wall. But he said, I don't have time to send you just one wall. You're getting the entire. The tractor in there is one of Walther's tractors. I think, Greg, you had one on yours.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those standard tractors that they sell. I still need to color it. This is just stained with Hunterline, and I did get a chance to what do you call it? Buy some red Hunterline stains, so it's
Uh-huh.
going to get red. And I'm going to use the roof is removable right now, so I can actually get some paint up there close to the top to make it a red barn. But this was a real fun kit to build, and it didn't take long.
And what kind of glue did you use on it?
Aleene's Tacky Glue. I have one of those applicators that you can get. It's a plastic bottle with
Uh-huh.
a very fine tip, and it puts just the right amount of glue on something. Even sometimes too much, even though it's so little. And I have to use my finger to tap the glue to make it even so it fits even better.
You know what I do? I have one of those small bottles too. It has like a little metal tube. And if I have to do some real detailed, some real small glue applications, I have a little coffee lid palette. It's just a lid off a coffee can. And I squeeze the glue on that and use a toothpick to apply it where I need to. It's where I don't know why none of the hobby shops sell modeler's toothpicks, because you could make a fortune. You could buy a box of toothpicks, put modeler's toothpicks on it, and sell it for double the price. And
well, I use a toothpick also. I have two different kinds. I have the round and the flat kind, and sometimes the flat kind's the best, sometimes the round kind is the best. But I also discovered the micro brushes. If you once you've used them, you pull off that felt top or that top, and you have a very, very fine tip on those micro brushes, and I use those a lot. By the way, Jeff, Jordan, I put together one of those Campbell cattle pens a number of years ago, and they literally are a box of sticks. And the plans are very difficult. I think one modeler calls it stare and compare. And that's what I had to do for that. It was quite tedious to put together. So I think Bill Banta's instructions are far better than Campbell's was.
The kit came with like a dozen pages of instructions, and he obviously got feedback that he subsequently added a DVD with pictures of the stuff.
Well, Bill does some great modeling and some great design work. I just like all of his kits.
Wow. Well, I really like this barn, Father. I just when I saw the picture of it, I wanted to hear the story behind it.
Yeah, I do too.
All right. Do we have any questions for Father Ron?
Father Ron or Greg, when you use these applicator bottles with your glue, are you using the ones that have a needle point in it, or is it just a little pinhole in the plastic bottle lid?
Well, mine it's a plastic bottle with a little very slender metal tube that comes out and a little rubber cap that goes on top of it. And I think I got a bag of 50 of those from Amazon for $7 or $8.
It's a stainless steel tube. It's not going to rust on you.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have problems with the glue drying up in it?
Yeah, and I keep a pin nearby if I have to clear it out. And that's maybe about once every 4 or 5 days when, I used it a bunch and didn't put the top on right away or something. But a pin just clears it out and then it works fine.
It helps to lay it down on its side instead of standing it straight up. And so all of my glue bottles like that are laying down, and people come in and say, "Why is your bottle laying down? Stand it up." I said, "No, if I stand it up, it'll go dry."
That's a good idea.
That's a great tip.
I have never heard of that lay down process. That's awesome.
I haven't either. I think that's a great tip.
Now I do that with my paint bottles. I'll have to start doing it with my glue, except I'll have to make sure they're more than half full. Then my glue bottles are usually near empty.
Yeah, I'm always taking my paint bottles, and about once a month I pull the box down from the shelf and flip all the bottles over to try to keep things stirred a little bit.
Yeah.
But say, Jim, I see that Karen's joined us finally.
Yes, she has, and I told her I was going to introduce her to everybody after this segment. So as soon as this is over, I plan to do that.
All right. Well, this was the end. So now the next My Build that we're having is in September. It's on the 18th.